Hey, what's going on everybody? Today on the channel we're going to be talking about how to install Windows 11 on VirtualBox on your Mac. So obviously we typically do this tutorial with Windows 10, but since Windows 11 came out, I figured, let's go ahead and do this video. Now Windows 11 is a little bit more of a pain to get working properly on a virtual machine than Windows 10 was. Microsoft has a whole lot of new requirements and things that they have, system stuff, all that. So we're going to do a little bit of bypassing some of their checks. We're also going to have some very specific VirtualBox settings. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. First thing you want to do, of course, if you haven't already, is download VirtualBox. I'll put this link in the description down below, but you go to virtualbox.org, you click the big blue download button, and you can see that as I'm recording this video, this is the latest version of VirtualBox. We're recording this just about a week into 2022, January 9th. So 6.1.30 is the latest version. And this version right here actually fixed the Monterey issue that I was having. So glad to see that is all resolved. But since we're on the Mac, all you got to do is click the OS X host right there. You click on that and it will begin to download it for you. Now I already have it downloaded and installed, so I'm obviously not going to do that. But with VirtualBox, what you do, you open the DMG file, and you may or may not get a kernel driver error when you are installing it. If you do, it's really simple to fix. You just go to System Preferences, you go to Security and Privacy, and there should be a little Allow button down there at the bottom. You click on that, you redo the installation, should be good to go. The other thing that probably is going to happen is you'll have to restart your computer after installing, because there's some kind of like security extension thing with Monterey, whatever. Just restart your computer after installing VirtualBox to get everything working properly, basically. Next thing we need to do is download a copy of Windows 11. So Microsoft makes this a little bit harder to find, but I'll put this link in the description down below for you to make it all easy. But yeah, so there's three different things here. We're going to ignore these two right here. We don't need that. What we want is the Windows 11 disk image right here, the ISO file. So all you got to do, click here. You're going to see the Windows 11 multi-edition ISO, and you just simply hit download on that, and it's going to ask you to choose a product language. You just want to choose whichever one you want, and you hit confirm on that. And this is of course only a 64-bit download, so you just click on that and it's going to start downloading that for you. So Windows 11 is a little bit larger than Windows 10, so we're coming in at 5.57 gigabytes. So yeah, I already have that downloaded as well. No need to go through that process either. But once you get those two things downloaded, then go ahead and head into VirtualBox. So your VirtualBox is going to look a little different than mine. I use it already, so I already have some stuff installed here, as you can see, 2 virtual machines. So totally ignore that. Yours is going to be completely blank when you get into it. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go into this thing that says New, and this is going to start the process of creating the virtual machine. So usually you want to name it something pretty recognizable. Most people just name them whatever operating system that it's going to be. So you could put something like Windows 11, or if you know what version you're going to have, like Windows 11 Pro. In my case, since I already have Windows 11, I'm just going to put Test, but you name it whatever you would like to. This one right here, this is where your virtual disk drive is going to be stored. So VirtualBox by default has a folder created in your home folder. That's typically a good place to put it, but if you want to put it in a different location, that's totally fine as well. I also have some videos showing how to put it on something like an external hard drive. So maybe your host computer doesn't have enough storage space. You could actually put your virtual machine on an external storage device. So if you want to check out those videos, I'll put the little card up there so you can click on it very easily. Down here, we want to make sure that it recognizes Microsoft Windows and also Windows 11 64-bit. Then we can hit continue. Now right here, it's going to show you your RAM. So this is the RAM that you want to allocate to your virtual machine. Now remember how I was talking about Windows 11 has some pretty strict requirements? Well, that's why VirtualBox has this already preset to the RAM that Windows needs. So 4 gigs of RAM is about 4096 megabytes, and that is the minimum requirement for Windows 11. So if you have an 8 gig computer, well, this might be pushing it a little bit. I have a 16 gig RAM here in this MacBook Air, so I should be okay. As long as you're in this green area and it's above 4096, Windows 11 should work no problem. Also, if you're not too sure about what number to adjust this to, obviously it's got to be at least 4096, but if you're like, well, maybe I can go a little more than that, maybe somewhere in here, you can change your RAM setting whenever you want to. So you can always go back and adjust this if you find that you might need to give it a little bit more RAM in the future. But 4096, it should be good. So let's hit continue. Next thing here is the hard disk. We always want to create a virtual hard disk now, so we hit that. And you always want to use a VirtualBox disk image. Now dynamically allocated and fixed size, you can read about it right here, but basically dynamically allocated is the better way to go here. So you don't want to take up all of the storage that you're going to allocate right away. So Windows 11, again, they require at least 64 gigs of storage. So if you set this to fixed size, it will take 64 gigs immediately from your host machine's drive, okay? Dynamically allocated will just take more storage as it needs, all the way up to 64 gigs. So that's why I say you should choose dynamically allocated. And you can see that VirtualBox is recommending 80 gigs for this install, which, you know, it's probably a good idea to give it a little bit more than 64 gigs, but you need at least 64 gigs minimum. I'm just going to leave this right here for now, and we can hit create on that. Okay, so our virtual machine is all created here. So now what we can do is we need to change a few more settings here, so we can go into the settings. So this is where we just want to make sure that we have all those specific Windows 11 requirements here. So there should be nothing in here. Okay, we'll go to system. You can see you need at least 4096 right there. And we don't really need a floppy disk, so you can uncheck that if you would like. You want to make sure that this option right here is selected. It should be by default, but if it's not, definitely check this box right here. Next up, we'll take a look at our processors here. So Windows 11 requires at least 2 CPUs, and I know for most people that's probably going to be pushing it. You can see it's pushing it for me. We're right there on the borderline. But yeah, Windows 11 requires at least 2 CPUs in order to run properly. Also, this option right here needs to be checked. Enable PAE/NX. You want to check that as well if you haven't already. And then finally we can go to display. And on the display, you want to make sure that you enable 3D acceleration, and you want to drag your video memory slider all the way to the right. So that is what you're definitely going to need for Windows 11 as well. And that should be everything here in our settings that we're going to need, so you should just hit OK on that. And now we can go ahead and click on the start button right there for the virtual machine. So you're going to get this little pop-up window. Basically, this is where you're going to choose the Windows 11 file that you added in earlier. So you click this little folder right here, click this add button, and you want to navigate over to wherever you saved that file. So it's probably in your downloads. For me, I have separate folders for all sorts of different ISO files. Well, yeah, so you just navigate over there, you hit open on that, you hit choose, and you can see that it puts it in the virtual drive. You can then hit start on that, and I have a feeling my window is going to jump to the other. You want to hit press any key to boot from a CD, just any key, And you're going to notice with Windows 11, whenever you use it on VirtualBox, you get a different loading screen and kind of like interface, I guess you could say. So yeah, let's go ahead and wait for this to load up here, and then I'll show you the next steps we're going to have to take to get Windows 11 working properly. Alright, so here is the first screen here for Windows setup. I want to make sure all this information is correct right here, and then we're going to hit the next button. And you're going to see the Install Now button. Now, we're going to have to go in and add a few things to the registry editor so we can actually get Windows 11 to bypass some checks in order to get this working properly. Because if we click Install Now, what's going to happen is it's going to say your PC is not able to run Windows 11. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit, actually we're going to need to hit Function, Shift, and F10. Because we're on a Mac, we have to hit that so we don't turn the volume down or whatever. And it's going to bring up the command prompt window. So on the command prompt window, you can just type in regedit with the regit right there. You hit enter, and that's going to bring up your registry editor. Now, I have a whole separate video on how to do this. It's called How to Fix VirtualBox Not Being Able to Install Windows 11 or something like that. It's one of my latest videos. It actually should be the one uploaded right before this one. So you can always go back and reference that if I go a little too quick here. But yeah, so we're in our registry editor now. So you're going to see some folders over here. The one we want is the one that says local machine. So we'll hit that drop down arrow on it. And then you're going to see a folder in here that says system. Hit that drop down arrow. And then we're going to see one more that says setup. Now when you see the one that says setup, what we're going to do is we're actually going to right click on setup here, and we're going to hit new. We're going to go here and we're going to hit key. It's going to put a new folder in under setup, which is actually a key, not a folder, but whatever. We're going to call it this. We're going to call it lab config. Just like that. We'll hit enter on that. And now we have some blank folders here, of course. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in 3 DWORD 32-bit things here. So right click on the folder you just made, hit new, and hit the DWORD 32-bit value. So we're going to need 3 of those. So I'm just going to go ahead and make 3 of them really quickly here. DWORD and one more. Put DWORD. Okay. So now we're going to name these very specific names here. The first one, we'll right click, hit rename. We're going to call this one bypass TPM check. Okay, just like that. And we'll hit enter on that. The next one, we're going to call it bypass RAM check. And then the third one, we'll call it bypass secure boot check. Alright, so now that we have those 3 values in there, we're going to right click on them again and hit modify. And under the value data right here, their default set to 0. We are instead going to set that to 1. So you hit 1 and then you hit enter. And you want to do that on the other 2 as well. So we'll just hit 1 and we'll put 1. Okay, so now this is going to allow us to bypass those 3 checks that usually allow, or prevent I should say, people installing Windows 11 on a non-supported PC, or in our case, a virtual machine. So once you get those in there, we can simply close the registry editor just like that and type in a quick exit command into the terminal there, or the terminal, so use the Mac, the command prompt, and close that down. Now we can click on the Install Now button and we should be able to install Windows 11 no issues. It's going to ask you if you have a product key. I bet 9 out of 10 of us don't have a product key. That's okay though, because Windows 11 is just like 10 where you can use it for as long as you want to without a product key. So that's pretty cool. Now right here you can choose whichever version of Windows you would like. I always like to go with one of the N versions, like a Windows 11 Pro N. The reason why I choose an N version is it kind of takes all that extra programs and stuff that you don't really need out of it. So yeah, just choose whichever version you want and click on the next button. And if all this stuff worked, yep, there we go. So this is how you know the registry stuff worked, if you see a license agreement come up. So if you see that, you just hit accept and you hit next and we're good to go. So you want to click on this custom one right here and you want to just make sure that's selected. That's your virtual drive. Remember that from earlier that we created, and you hit next and there we go. So now it's going to install Windows for us. So everything seems to be working as planned and properly, so that's good to see. But yeah, let's go ahead and let this install and we should load up into a setup screen. So first question is choose your country. So we are in the US, and now this is just going to be typical setup. So I might have to pause this screen recording to get through this because it's using, we're using already 4 gigs of RAM for the machine, and then the screen recording is probably using another 2 to 3. So yeah, it's really putting a strain on the system here and slowing things down for us. But this is just typical Windows 11 setup. You just answer the questions, so, and then you'll be in on your desktop. So next one's about your keyboard layout, and add a second keyboard layout. We don't want to do that, so we'll just go ahead and keep going here. Now it looks like it's going to check for some software updates. I'm sure it's going to find some, so it'll go ahead and install those for us. Check for those updates. You can see that it wants us to name your device. Something cool here in Windows 11 is you actually have the option to skip for now. So you definitely couldn't do that on Windows 10 or 8 or any version of Windows. You had to name it something. But yeah, they now give you the option to click skip if you would like. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip that for now, since this is a test, of course, but you should probably name it something recognizable so you can easily find it if you need to look for a network. Now the next thing here is going to ask us if we're going to set it up for either personal use or for work or school. I'm just going to do personal use, but maybe you are setting it up for work or school, so you would select that one right there. Now the next thing here is the dreaded Microsoft account. So how do we go around this? Well, let's see. I don't know how to do that in Windows 11. Maybe we go to sign-in options. Let's see, because they push this so hard in Windows 10. There we go. You can go to sign-in options. You can go to offline account. So at least they make it easy for you. On Windows 10, you have to turn off your Wi-Fi and all that stuff to trick it. What is a Microsoft account? I don't care. So they really try to push this. So we're just gonna skip it. Just want a domain account. I don't want a Microsoft account. Why is that so hard to understand? So here we go. Now we get to the point where you can just type in your name and a password. You can put that in if you want, but you don't have to. So now it wants us to choose your privacy settings. So this is basically stuff you can choose whether or not you want it to be on or off. A whole lot of stuff here. For me personally, you probably want to turn off things like your advertising ID. Don't really need to do diagnostic data. It's just more information to give Microsoft. Yeah, don't do any diagnostic data. I mean, you can do this if you want, but just me personally, I usually turn all of these off. They don't need to know this stuff. Let's see. What's the last one here? Find my device and location services. Yeah. We don't need any of that stuff. So once you get those settings how you prefer them, you can click on accept. Alright, so after that it looks like we're finally here on the Windows 11 desktop. So you can see that it looks a little bit kind of weird, a little bit larger than normal. And that's because we don't have the resolution, the screen resolution driver installed yet. And it's really simple to do that. So VirtualBox, you go up here to your menu bar, you hit devices, and you click on that insert guest editions CD image, and this file is what we need to install in order to get all of our virtual drivers and everything working correctly. So head over into the File Explorer right here on that new center taskbar, which is always quite interesting to see. And you can see right here that there it is. It's right over here on the left. You just click on it. We're going to scroll down a little bit here. You're going to see an application file that just simply says VBox Windows Editions. And you're just going to click on that one. It's going to bring up a little pop-up. You just hit yes. And again, we got those new Windows 11 sounds, don't we? Okay, so once that opens up, it's going to open the installation wizard. So you hit next, and you hit next again, and you hit install. And this is going to install those virtual drivers. Like I said, this is going to make your screen resolution work no matter what size the window. And it's also going to make it to where, and you just might get a little pop-up here, it says that it's also going to make this run a lot smoother and all that good stuff. You're basically activating the virtual drivers to make everything work flawlessly. So yeah, guest editions are always a requirement. No matter what virtual machine operating system you install, you always want to install VirtualBox guest editions. And you can see that it's already changed the look of the resolution there. So yeah, that means that it's definitely going to work for us. And you can already see my cursor. Look how much smoother the cursor moves now. It's pretty cool. So yeah, reboot now. You want to hit that, hit finish. And once this restarts here, we should be good to go using Windows 11. So let's go ahead and let it restart. Alright, so we're back here on the desktop, and if you notice now when I resize this window, it automatically adjusts the screen resolution for us. So that means if we were also to go into full screen, we would have an entirely full screen experience. So that's why you want to install the guest editions there. But yeah guys, that's how you install Windows 11 on VirtualBox on your Mac in 2022. Yeah, let me know if you have any issues in the comments down below. I'll try to help you out the best that I can. But yeah guys, thanks for watching as always, and I will catch you all in the next one.